Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm going to be reviewing another exciting product. This is the K&F Concept 67 millimeter variable ND filter. This one goes from ND2 all the way out to ND32. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I actually reviewed this, but I reviewed the one that was for 82 millimeters. And I had bought these step down rings. I was hoping that these would allow me to use that larger 82 millimeter on an ultra wide lens that basically stepping it down to 67 millimeter. However, I found that didn't work. These ultra wide lenses and ND filters are a little bit, it's tricky. It's tricky to get them to work the way that you want. So now I have two. I ordered a second one. I have two of these. One for my 60 Mark II 16 to 35 millimeter lens, and then this one is going to go on my 80D, which has a 10 to 18 millimeter ultra wide. So you know, which is this camera right here. This is my Canon 80D. With its ultra wide 10 to 18 millimeter lens. It's got a 4.5 aperture when I'm shooting at 10 millimeter. So it's not super fast, but there are situations, especially like if I'm shooting in direct sunlight or I'm out on the slopes in the snow, this thing, it needs a little help from a variable ND. Otherwise you're gonna either end up over cranking the shutter or you're gonna end up closing down the aperture to get your exposure where it needs to be. So I actually think that this particular ND filter is a good fit. Let's get to unboxing this thing and let's do a full review. So this is the 67 millimeter and this one is the 82 millimeter. Aside from that, they are both exactly the same. It is interesting to note, however, that the packaging differs between them. So let's go ahead and open the 67 millimeter first. So right off the bat, you'll notice that this has a thing here where you could potentially hang it. You're in a store, you could hang it. So that's kind of interesting. But in order to open the product, there's this little tab on the bottom that you have to open. There we go. Out comes the case. So this case does have the thing that you can hang it, but also it gives you sort of it's a protective case that you can use like if you want to throw this in your bag or whatever. You open it up, and one thing I will tell you about these particular ND filters is that they have sort of a green sheen to them. I think makes it look kind of cool. And here on the side, you'll notice that it's K&F Concept Variable ND2 to 32. It's the 67 millimeter, and then of course it has stops that it starts at the minimum, and it goes from ND2, ND4, ND8. ND16 and ND32. Okay, so just to compare, this is the 82 millimeter one. It has like a little magnet thing, and then it opens. It looks like this. At first, I was a little disappointed that these didn't come with the same, but it's interesting because when they're in my bag, it makes it so much easier for me to determine which one is which. So when you open this one, it'll come in this little protective bag. Oh, by the way, if you want to see the review on this specific one, just check the link in the top. There's a completely separate review, but I'm just showing this one here just for the sake of comparison. So it's basically the same. It's 82 millimeter. And has the built-in stops that range from ND2 all the way to ND32. Let's compare them side by side. You can just see it's just a little bit bigger. Aside from that, they're basically the same. All right, so let's go ahead and put this on the 10 to 18 millimeter lens. Once you find the threads, it will screw on clockwise. And you see it fits pretty nice. The only complaint that I really have about this is that on this particular lens, the little indicator ends up being on the lower portion. I don't know why this is. It just seems like, you know, it's up to chance when you get an ND filter where that ends up. And I wish that was a standard thing where they were always at the top, because if it's at the top, it's just easier for you to take a quick glance. You don't have to get down here, turn your camera to determine where you're at. But so it stops at the min, goes all the way to the max. But anyway, in a vlogging scenario, I don't think that'll be too big of a problem, because you'll just be able to use your viewfinder to adjust the ND filter. So I just realized, why not go ahead and give these a try? These are some white paint markers. So what I'm going to try to do is actually mark right on the ND filter, just basically recreate the markings, and we'll see how that works. I will put a link to these down in the description. Push the tip down a few times, and then the little white paint will start coming out. All right, so here goes. I had already tried this with black, so I have marks to go off of, which can be helpful. So this is going to be like our little point right here, and then this will be the min point. And then I'm going to put one right here. This should be ND2, ND4, 8, 16, and 32. So I'm sure these aren't perfect, but they're close enough for me. So now we just have to wait for the paint to dry. All right, now for the fun stuff. So you will not believe how long it has taken me to get a day where I can do this video. It has been raining literally every single day, or something else comes up, and it's just been really difficult for me to put this one together. And so I'm really pumped about this. I'm super excited that we finally get to finish this video. So I've been playing with the camera for a while and with the ND filter, and want to say that the markings are staying on, so that's worked out. It's working out pretty good. Definitely a useful thing if you're a vlogger and you want to, you know, have to be able to see where your ND filter's at, and it doesn't, you know, the threads don't work out on your lens. Definitely want to pick up the white markers for sure. So I'm going to be doing something a little bit different in today's video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys my overlays, what settings I'm at. That way, there's no funny business going on, and you'll be able to see exactly what the camera's doing, the lighting and everything. I'm gonna snap my fingers, and I'm gonna have these overlays up. Okay, so there are my overlays. We're shooting at 24p with a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. I have the aperture on this 10 to 18 millimeter all the way open, which is only 4.5, and it is kind of overcast today, so it's not super bright out, unfortunately. ISO's all the way at the bottom at 100, so we can't go any lower than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the ND filter off and show you what it looks like. Okay, and it doesn't look too bad today. If we were in direct sun right now and we didn't have this giant soft light above us here, that we would be way overexposed, and we wouldn't be able to open the camera up like this and achieve the background blur that we're currently achieving. So, you know, the way typically, if you don't have a variable ND filter or any type of filter really, is to typically over crank your shutter, which would be, let me speed up. You can see I'm speeding up my shutter speed. See how it's getting darker, okay? We don't want to do that. We want the best motion blur, which is 1/50th of a second, 24p, makes sense. The other way to do it would be to stop down the aperture. We can darken up the shot by stopping down the aperture as well. But then we lose our blurry background, our bokeh, our nice creamy bokeh. So The solution really, we can't do anything with our ISO because it's already as low as it can go. We can't go any darker with the ISO. We can only go brighter. I'll even show you that. Just give me 1 second. So you can see it's just gonna get brighter and brighter. So really we're at the bottom on this particular lens. Now you might have a faster lens than this. There is the, I believe it's the 10-22, 3.5. You know, if you have that particular lens, that wide angle lens, or any other lens really that's faster than this one with a bigger aperture, you're gonna need some sort of ND filter. So I consider the ultra wide to be sort of like the worst case scenario. So anyways, let's go ahead and put this back on. And I'm gonna walk through the settings with it. So right now we are at ND2, and since it's not super bright out right now, it's gonna get dark pretty quick, but I'm gonna turn this up to ND4. You can see it's getting darker. ND8, 16-32. I mean, this thing is getting dark quick. So one test that I can do with you guys is I'm gonna show you. Let me get something more interesting behind us here. So here's my kid's treehouse. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this over to auto ISO. And what auto ISO is going to allow us to do is going to allow the camera to decide using its auto exposure where the ISO should be. And we're currently at ND2 on the filter. And if I have to press the shutter, you'll see that we're at ISO 200. So now I'm going to go up to ND4, essentially darkening it by half. You can see our ISO went to 400. Now I'm going to go to ND8, 800, ND16, 1600, and I think that's the limit here. So let me go up to ND32. It's probably going to top out. Oh no, it went to 3200. So you can see that the markings I added, which match the original markings, are pretty much dead on the money as far as like if you're worried about doing a calculation for some reason, this thing, the markings are accurate. So there is one more thing that I want to show you. I want to do a vignetting test because, as you know, with an ultra wide angle lens and a variable ND, sometimes that will create a vignetting effect. It's something that manufacturers try to prevent, but it's pretty much, you're working on the laws of physics here. So anyways, let's go somewhere where I can see the sky behind me. That way we have a nice even background, and we'll test it out. I'm just trying to test the limits of what the ND filter can do. I know this isn't really how you use an ND filter, so here we are, we're gonna do the sky test. Okay, I think I am gonna rely on the auto ISO for this one, just because we're trying to see if we can see any vignetting in like the worst possible scenario. So I'm gonna point this guy up to the sky. Okay, now I'm gonna use the markings on the bottom for a change. Okay, so we're at ND2. That's ND4. ND8. ND16. And that is ND32. So do you see any vignetting in the sky there? I don't seem to see any, but it's kind of hard for me to tell just in the way I'm using my camera at this moment. So anyways, you know, this is kind of the worst possible scenario anyways, so I'm pretty happy with this, I think. So let me know down in the comments, do you think that this thing had any vignetting when we turned it all the way up? Don't forget, there's product links down in the description. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end with me. I love it that it has the built-in stops. I love that it's accurate. I love that it doesn't seem to have any vignetting, even on an ultra-wide lens. It just seems to do all the stuff I want, especially in like a vlogging scenario. You know, you could also use it to take pictures of waterfalls, like this one. Get a K&F Concept Variable ND filter. You will not be disappointed. Hey, don't forget to subscribe. All right, I'll talk to you later. Peace.